Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. We are going to be doing every single race for this week's new daily races, so A, B and C, and giving you my verdict on these races. So we're going to rate them at the end of each race. Let me know what you think about this idea, and also let me know what your opinion is after I've rated them of each race. You know, what you rate daily A, daily B and daily C. I'm giving my personal opinion, so it's not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone's opinion changes. But I'm just going to give you a general idea of what I think the overall scene is as well at the end of the video. So first up, we have Daily Race A. It is at Grand Valley Short, and it is in a four-wheel drive Group 4 race. And it's a standard start, which instantly makes it a little bit more enjoyable. So a little bit of a closer start, no field spread, makes for a lot closer racing. Now this race does have a bit of potential for chaos. However, I didn't really experience too much chaos in this race. It was a pretty decent little battle. 5 laps. It's not the longest race ever. We're on racing hard tyres, so yeah, Group 4 a little bit dodgy through there as the one car goes straight into the wall, and you are going to have to be very careful of that wall on that point of the track, because it is very easy to get a penalty by colliding with that wall, and a few track limit issues on some of them corners as well, as you see a car up ahead with a 0.5 second penalty. Now this is where the variation differs, as we have a very quick moment of just trying to avoid that car and manage to do it just about, but we obviously go off to the short version here, then back onto the main straight, and that is pretty much a lap completed. So not the longest race you're ever going to see, but Daily Race 8 is very often quite a short race. We were quite lucky, I think, with the Fuji race, so it was a little bit longer. However, this is back to the short race. But I do like this Group 4 idea of just racing four-wheel drive cars. I'd like to see other races like Ferrari versus McLaren and stuff like that as a Daily Race A. You know, just give us some, you know, different types of races where you only have like 3 or 4 cars to choose from. Could be pretty decent as another car goes straight into that wall there. That gives me the opportunity to go around the outside there. That is where you're going to get a lot of overtakes done. Now the Veyron is very difficult through that section, and that's why you can see in front of us there we actually have 2 Evos. So it isn't all about the Veyron this race. You can definitely compete in other cars. However, what I would say was, if you get in the lead in the Veyron, it's going to be almost impossible for the Evo to get an overtake done on the Veyron, because it's a little bit quicker. As we skip ahead a little bit onto lap 4 here, as we're gradually closing up to these Evos, you can see in these sections of the track the Evo is very, very strong. It's just lacking a little bit on top speed. As you can see, 9/10, nearly a full second behind the leader here as we go onto the straight. But then we should start closing that down once we get into 6th gear. You'll see the gap start decreasing, because we're in that slipstream and we're going to obviously gain a lot of time. So you can see we're getting closer, under 9/10, into the 8/10 away from the leader. However, we're now into that braking zone. Now the Veyron is pretty strong through this corner, and this is an overtaking opportunity if you can get close enough into turn 1. However, other than that, it's pretty much the only real other. There is a couple of overtaking opportunities you can do on this middle sector if you get the car lined up correctly and you manage to get a run on someone. So yeah, you can send one through this corner here if you're right up behind someone and you manage to get the inside line into this right hand corner, but it's very, very difficult to do. So in terms of overtaking opportunities, probably one main overtaking opportunity, because this corner here, it's very hard to get the exit behind, and then the acceleration zone is very, very short before the next braking zone, and this is more of a 3rd gear corner rather than a slow corner. It's kind of not really a braking zone, so it tends to be quite just a follow and just wait for your opportunity this race. So overall, not a terrible race, not the best race I've ever experienced as a Daily Race A. I think we've had a lot more exciting Daily Race A's. For example, the Group B rally race that we had a while ago, that was one of the best Daily A's I think we've ever had. But overall, it's pretty fun. I would say there's potential for a lot of chaos if you come across the right people in this race, which is going to possibly cause some issues, especially with the SR being off. But yeah, we're going to rate this as a 6.5 out of 10. I think it could have been better, but it's not the worst race you're ever going to come across. Let me know your opinion, what you would rate Daily Race A as, and we'll move on to Daily Race B now, where we are racing at Daytona. One of the best tracks in my view for racing, and we are in Group 3. However, there is something that's going to instantly downgrade our score for this, and it is the 4 laps. Only 4 laps racing for Daily Race B. And now the biggest problem with this is, even with 4 laps, you cannot go from Daily Race B into C or Daily Race B into Daily Race A. There's not enough time. So In my personal opinion, it would have made sense to make this at least 6 or even 7 laps, make it over 10, 10-minute race at least, or 11-minute race, something like that, and give people a little bit more opportunity to battle fairly, because in 4 laps you're going to see some people driving probably a little bit chaotic. We've seen it yesterday. We saw some pretty nasty driving going on, actually, to be honest, from some drivers, and one of the drivers is actually in this race. He was causing absolute mayhem. I think he actually caused mayhem for quite a few individuals during the day, so it wasn't just one or two who's causing absolute chaos. But yeah, we're driving in the Peugeot for this race. This is definitely a good option. The 6th gear is very strong on this car, which will give you opportunities to overtake. Other options include the Ford GTs, both of the old Ford GT cars, the Supra, Genesis, and you might get away with a couple of the other power cars. But other than that, you're going to be restricted. If you try and drive another car that's not really got the power, you're going to get eaten up on them straights and lose positions as we go into this really fast chicane. You can see a bit of chaos up ahead of us. A car goes over the grass there, and that's going to spin him, and he clips into P9, and that is a fatality. And 2 positions for me though, but you're going to see a lot of that, I think, going on with this 4-race battle. People are going to try and overtake where they shouldn't really go for a move and probably cause a bit of chaos. This particular corner is going to be very chaotic. Turn 1, a lot of people go for sent into that. A lot of people just defend quite aggressively as well and run people off the track, as we've got another car spinning, and that's up to P8. So not bad so far. We've only done 1 lap and we've gone from pretty much the back of the grid up into P8. So not too bad for us in this race. However, what I would say is we're getting a little bit of luck here with overtakes. We're getting people making mistakes, and that's probably because it's a 4-lap race. If it would have been 6 or 7 laps, I think you'd have seen a little bit more patience in some of the moves from some drivers as we go into this tight right-hand corner. And one good thing about this is the Supra is not actually being used too much. Now the Supra is usable here, 100% usable. It's a solid car. However, it doesn't have the top speed of the Peugeot, so it's putting people off using it, but you can get away with using it. It is another car that you can race with around this combination. But yeah, that is one positive, I suppose. However, it really does highlight some issues with the BOP on high-speed tracks, which we'll get to at the end of lap 4, which you're going to see. It really does show you that there is some issues. And now we're seeing one of the drivers that has been causing a lot of issues throughout the day, DK Sim Racing, or Sim Racing DK. And you can see he was squeezing P7 off as he went to go for an overtake. And this was a general thing that was going on throughout the day with this driver. A lot of incidences. We got another driver there with some sort of incident on the chicane that's promoting me up to P7. So I decided here at this point, we've got Brad in front of us, I decided to bump draft him, because I'm thinking if we bump draft him and let him battle with P5, maybe that'll open up the door for me to take both positions in one corner. But let's see how this plan plays out. You see he's going to go down the right. I'm just going to brake early, because I know that P5 will brake really late and just squeeze him out on the outside. He will not give him space. If he, any sort of car on his outside, he'll just squeeze him wide. But we managed to get on the inside of Brad there, and now we're on the outside. We're going to brake on the outside, brake early. He brakes a little bit late. We're going to undercut him there. A nice little switcheroo up into P6, and now we're behind Sim Racing DK. We know what DK stands for. I think everyone does that was racing against this guy. And we're now going to see if we can get past him at some point without any chaos. It's going to be very interesting if this happens. And this is the type of thing you see. He just basically was pushing his way through everyone. He wasn't really given much space. That was actually one of his better moves, to be fair, that I've seen throughout the day. He'd driven pretty awful in all the races we had come across him, but that was actually one of his cleaner moves. We're a little bit of contact still, but up into P6 here, it's going okay. You can see we're on lap 3, and now we're going to get the slipstream all the way down this section. And this is where the Peugeot, you see, when the Peugeot gets into 6th gear, this is really, really strong, and actually one of the better cars you're going to use at this combination. So we're going to go down the right. Now, one thing to be careful of with the Peugeot is the rear of the car extends out, and you end up clipping the wall on the right hand side, which makes you go really weird. Everything goes really weird. So just be cautious of that with the Peugeot as we work our way through that fast chicane and then getting the slipstream. Now we can see the Porsche up ahead, and this is going to highlight a problem. You can see the Porsche is in P2 there, and you're going to see a massive issue on the straights. That car loses well over a second on the power zone, just on one single stretch of road, and that's quite crazy when you think about it. Now we've got two drivers going side by side. I'm going to go to the outside here, and I'm going to brake early because I know what DK Sim Racing is like. So I brake early. You can see he absolutely sends it. Predictable driving from him, and that gives me 2 positions and up into P4. So yeah, it was obvious he was going to do that. We knew from the way he was driving that he would try and, you know, brake as late as possible and probably wipe a car out in the process. But we're now up to P4, and we're going to see if we can catch up to Max and this Ford in front of us. And now this is where you're going to see a big problem with the Porsche. Like I say, that Porsche is massively down on power, and it's one of the reasons why you're probably not going to choose that car if you're going to try and get a win in this race, because if a car is in your slipstream and you're in that Porsche, they're going to absolutely destroy you on the straights. Now, it is pretty strong through the middle sector, the Porsche. It is actually quite a nice car through this section that we've just been through there. However, as soon as we get to this part, you might as well say goodbye, because that Porsche has no power. Now, we're probably about 1.3, 1.4 seconds behind him now, but watch this. As we fast forward, we catch up at least 6-7 tenths there, and now into the chicane, and we're going to see if we can catch up some more out of the chicane and on this straight to the finishing line. So very short race, 4 laps. It feels like by the time you've started it, the race is pretty much finished, and it's a shame because this is a great combo in Group 3. Could have been a brilliant one with a few extra laps, to make racing a little bit better. But watch this now. As we're going down straight, we've got really high top speed in this Peugeot, even more than the Ford. We're going to go past both of them and get ourselves a nice P2 from the back of the grid. Just squeeze P2 right at the end there. So from the back to P2 in 4 laps, not a bad race. However, yeah, it really highlights just how slow that Porsche was on the straight. And I think 4 laps is a little bit too short. So I am going to give this 6.5 out of 10. Let me know again what you would rate this track, what your thoughts are on it. Do you agree with me that it's a bit too short? I personally think that would have been better at 6 or 7 laps and less chaos inducing overtaking, because 4 laps is a bit short. Final race of the day though, and it's a surprise race. It is at Road Atlanta in the Radicals. Now, I was a bit skeptical about this combination. However, as soon as you add a standing start to a race, always improves it in my view and gives you probably an extra half a point there towards the overall rating. But we're going to go with that standing start. We're starting from the back of the grid again to give you our opinion from the back and what sort of chaos you're going to come across. But yeah, this car, definitely an enjoyable car to drive. I would say give it a try. Don't just go off one go with this car though, because it does take a little bit of getting used to. It's not the easiest car to drive. Also, with Gran Turismo, we have kind of a frustrating gearing system with this car, and that definitely takes a bit of the enjoyment out of this race, in my opinion, with the double shifting that you have to do. However, when you do get used to it, you can overlook that slightly and try and have some good racing, as we see a lot of chaos at the start, and we get a nice gap opened up there where a car hits pull off, and we're going to go up the inside and into P11, so gaining 3 or 4 positions there because of the chaos. And you're going to get a lot of that on lap 1, a lot of contact, a lot of chaos. It's going to be quite fun as well in that opening lap, trying to gain positions. And now we're going to go onto that main straight. You can see pull off behind this egg onto the grass, dirty tyres. He's going to lose traction all through these next few corners, so that's why we're pulling away, because pull off was actually in a league of his own round here in terms of pace, doing 29s without a slipstream. Absolute incredible pace. But you can see we've managed to pull away a bit there because he's obviously had them dirty tyres. So onto this straight, and you can see that double shifting taking place from 3rd gear to 5th gear, or you can do 4th to 6th. It's not realistic. It's terrible, to be honest. It shouldn't be the way this car drives, and it does get a little bit annoying, and it probably is putting a few people off driving this combination in general. I think a lot of people might not be doing it. You can see again here, we're going to double shift that from 3rd to 5th as some people go in the pits. And now this is one element of the race. It's a hard one. It definitely improves the race, the fact that you have to make a pit stop. However, in my opinion, this race could have been improved with sports soft tyres, a multiplier on that tyre ratio, and then making it so the sports soft maybe just about get to the finish, but you have an option of changing tyres if you want to for a fresh set of tyres that are going to be quicker than the sports soft tyres that haven't changed tyres. But overall, the race finishing time could be pretty similar. I think it could have been quite an interesting race if they had done that. So track position, over worn tyres, over fresh tyres, or whatever you chose to go with. So yeah, sports soft tyres would have added a little bit of grip to this car, made it a little bit more fun to drive, I think. And then adding a little bit of tyre wear ratio just to make that pit stop a decision whether you change tyres. Having ×1 tyre wear, I just think it's a bit daft when you've got a compulsory pit stop. At least make it so it's a viable choice whether you change tyres. But again, that is just my opinion. You let me know in the comments what you think about that. I personally think that would probably improve the racing if there was, you know, a little bit of tyre wear, a little bit more grip on this car, and if we got rid of this double shifting that's going on. It is quite frustrating. But we're going to get the slipstream from P7 here. You can see we're going to go to the right hand side. He's got that inside covered, so we're going to go to the right. Brake early though, because he's probably just going to brake as late as possible on the inside. He does that, and now we're going to try and get a better exit from this corner. Now as we go for the exit, we can see P6 is going to go for a pit stop. Now I think P7 was thinking of the pit stop, however changed his mind when he went into the pits. So I double shifted into 6th here nice and early to get the run on the exit, and that is going to give us a little bit more power on the right hand side, and we should be able to go for a move. Can we brake a little bit later? We do that, and we're up into P5. So a nice move and some good racing going on here. I have to say, we have had some good racing all day yesterday. Now I did quite a few races before I wanted to give my verdict on these races. We did a couple of daily A's, we did quite a few daily race B's, and we did a lot of daily race C. So I feel like we're in a good position to give you a rating and an opinion on these races, because we did a lot of racing throughout the day, and I think overall I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed daily race C. I'm not particularly fast there. It's not a combination I'd ever be fast at in general with these cars. However, it's a good fun battling. We had some good racing, and we've actually managed to get ourselves up to P4 here, because this car on our left hand side is going to take a penalty, and now we're going to get the slipstream to P3, and that is going to promote me to a podium position. However, we do know that some cars have pitted early and obviously gone on to, you know, get some clean air, so we're probably not actually in a podium position at this point, but we are catching the cars up in front. You can see Bradley, we're not catching up actually. Bradley's actually flying, but we're catching up the leader. Willett's in P1 there, and Bradley is catching up the leader also. So overall, it's quite a strategic race. You've got to think about when you pit. Now, one thing, if you pit early, is you could end up in traffic, or you could catch people up that haven't pitted, and that could slow you down throughout the race. But we're now on lap 6, and we're going to see Bradley go for a tactical decision here. You can see he's gone in for a pit stop. Now, that's not always the best idea though. Why he's done that is because Poloff, you can see, setting 30.1s clearly in clean air. So he's pitted to try and get ahead of him, and you can see actually on the left hand side there, Bradley is actually ahead of Poloff. So tactical move there to try and get track position over Poloff. Good thinking. I didn't realise straight away, but then we saw that obviously that's what he had done, and now we're getting pretty close to P1. So there is a strategy element to this race, but like I say, I think if there was a little bit of tyre wear in this race with sports soft tyres, it could have made it a little bit more interesting as we're going into that pit lane. Now, one thing, you have to be quite cautious on the pit lane, on the entry. However, you can be very aggressive on the exit there. As long as you don't hit the wall too hard, you shouldn't get a penalty. So quite aggressive on the pit entrance, and we actually gained, I think, about half a second on that entry into the pit lane. So fast forwarding our way down that pits, as it's quite a long pit exit, and we're going to come out into P4 from the back of the grid, and we're just ahead of P5. You can see P5 and P6 coming through that corner behind us, and actually not a bad result this, actually, considering where we started and the people in the lobby. It's a decent little race, a fun combination, I have to say. As one thing you have to be very careful of there is when you come out the pits. Now, this is another element to the strategy, is the tyres tend to cool down a little bit when you go into the pit lane, so you get slightly lower temperatures, so the grip is going to be a little bit lower, so you have to be a little bit careful in some of them corners when you come out the pits. Just remember that your tyres will need a couple of corners just to build a bit of temperature back up, so factor that into your pit stop. And that's why some people are not so keen on pitting, say middle of the race or something like that. Pitting lap 1 won't be a biggest problem, because it just means an extra lap of cold tyres basically. So yeah, overall this week I think it's a pretty solid week. It's an enjoyable week. This race is definitely the best race of the week in my view. Daily race B had potential to be a really good one, but I think the 4 laps did kind of ruin that and stop that from scoring higher overall. But yeah, this race has to be the winner for me. Daily race C, it's a surprise combo. I wasn't expecting this to be that enjoyable in the radical. I was actually a little bit worried about it with the double shifting, and although that double shifting is a problem and should be fixed by PD, I hope that someone at PD can listen and get that sorted on this car. But overall, yeah, this race has to be the winner for me for this week's daily races, and I'm going to give that a 7.5 out of 10. Again, let me know what you think of that, whether you think my improvements would have made this better by softer tyres and also a bit of multiplier on that tyre wear. And overall, for the whole week, I think 7 out of 10. I think it could be better. It's not a bad week. It's not an amazing week, but it's a pretty solid week worth of racing. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'll be back with more of these videos. I'm going to do these videos every single week, rating these races. And you can always give me your ratings as well in the comments. See you all soon. Bye, everyone.